Hi everyone, this is Erin Anding, your school library and site technology facilitator. This is session 2 of our 3-part Google Sites. This was originally presented at our TOTALS meetings on September 17, 2020. I'm making this extra recording. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with my video this morning, so I will not be doing, this will be voice only. Please feel free to go look at session 1, which is on the YouTube channel prior to this one if you need it. They can work alone. If you want to do this a different route, I also made an 11-part series that goes through the entire thing. That is also on my YouTube channel, Erin Anding. You can have your attendance taken by watching this virtually, even though you weren't at the TOTALS meeting. The attendance for the semester, whether in person, virtual on the actual day, or watching afterwards, is https://tinyurl.com/GOMHS fall 2020 totals. Please notice what is capitalized. But that is pretty much tinyurl.com/GOMHS fall 2020 totals. Our objectives today: the learner will review and discover layout techniques, creating web pages, and the concept of embedding and hyperlinking. Okay, so a review of setting up your faculty Google site from last session. You do not need to create your Google site. It is actually being pushed out to you by Mr. Gordon and or myself. You should have it. It was a template. If you don't, please let me know ASAP, but you should have it. There are 2 ways to get to it. The traditional way is to go up to what we all affectionately call the waffle, which is the apps. If you come down here and you see the word sites, it's a blue rectangle with a white rectangle insert in the corner. That is how to get to it, especially the first time. If all of your stuff is synced, all of your data on your device is, perfectly synced, you do have the potential to find it, if it's published yet right now, under faculty and staff list, glenoakshigh.com. That is our website. No matter what, this is where your Google site will live, on the faculty and staff list. These are the 2 ways to get to it. Now, last session, making sure you had your website and then how to create the correct links, something we'll talk about a little bit later, was the big takeaway from session 1. The big takeaway from today is setting up the structure of your website. And so updating web pages is part of what we're doing today. And the biggest thing, the best way I can think to explain this is to go back to the old analogies we used to do in elementary school. We use the phrase website and web page a lot of times interchangeably. That's not actually correct. So this should give you an idea. A web page is to website as page is to book. So just like a book is made up of many, many pages, a website is made up of many, many web pages potentially. Just like in a book, the bulk of the pages are going to have some kind of content on them, whether it's an illustration, writings, bibliography, something. Your website's web pages need to be the same. We have a lot of people right now who have great websites, like the first 2 web pages look fantastic, but the other 3 are blank. If you were a prospective parent, or you were a concerned parent of one of your students, and you went to the website, think about what it would look like if you started clicking around on a teacher's website and half the web pages had nothing on them. You were given a template. Notice I said the word template. You do need a home page. You do need information about your courses. But after that, how you set it up is up to you. If you look at my website, it's very, very different than the template, because I, as the librarian / site technology facilitator / research instructor, it didn't work for me. The template didn't totally work. So I still have the home page like everybody else, but everything else has been adjusted. Okay, so each web page makes sense. I wrote my book with its chapters and pages, I guess you could say, but each page has content on it. Okay, so one of the biggest takeaways from today is if you have a web page that doesn't work for you, you either need to adapt it so you can add content, or you need to delete it. Okay, both are acceptable, but if you got something up there, there should be content on it. So what do I mean by that? Here is my actual website. GOMHS -anding, GOMHS-anding is the actual website. These are my web pages. Okay. I was playing around a little bit beforehand on an earlier, which I decided I didn't like and I forgot to delete it, but I just added this one. Okay. My actual website is Home, Library, Technology, Instruction. And I forgot to erase this when I was making this because I was making an earlier video for somebody else. But where did I make this random research page that I will delete because I haven't published it? You do it under pages. Notice if I was to click these arrows up, it's what you see up here. Home, Library, with little drop downs for subpages, Technology, little drop downs, Research, which is the one that I'm going to delete. Notice I said if you have a web page you don't like, you delete it. And Instructions. So I'm going to take that research page and delete it. And now it's gone. Okay. If I want to get something like it back, I go to New Page, Demo, it suddenly appears. If that's where I like Demo, I can keep it there. If I want to move Demo, I just take it and move it. Okay. Notice I can change the order where it goes. I can make it a subpage. And notice that the moment I made it, it went here, here, and it made the banner. Okay. The biggest tip about this is, let's say I realize, demo is probably not the best word for me to have as a web page. So, I decide that I want that old page back, research. I could actually just undo till I get there. Or I could change it and make the banner research. Notice it didn't change it up here. This, when it's made, will be updated here and here. But when I decide to change the name, please remember that you change the banner and you change up here. How do I do that? I double click. Now it's research again. Okay. Each one of these are web pages. Each one should have something on it. Think about what's the information your students and prospective families and everybody needs. Also think what helps you. And that should help you decide what web pages you should have. Okay? That's this part. Remember, web page is website as pages to book. Now, we just talked about, your page should have info on it. How do you put that on there? Last time we just talked about the basic put a text, box in, that type of thing. But for advanced layout techniques, you don't want it. I had one person tell me they wanted their pages to not be boring. To do that, the best thing I can say is remember the grid lines in the background. What do I mean by that? I go back to my website, which is GOMHS-anding, and I decide to go to the web page research. So this is how I made the page, but now I want to add stuff to it. That's where we go to insert. Okay, a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. I want to add a text box. If you want to have a nice clean layout, but you want to have to totally do it from scratch, there are some pre-made templates. There's some nice fancy things down here that could help, collapsible text. If you've got a lot of text you need to write, that's always helpful. Divider, if you've got several things, you could put a line so that it kind of makes it more visually separated. In session 3, we're going to talk about a calendar. That might be one of the most powerful things to put on your Google site. You could put some other things on there. If you had a slideshow you wanted to add. At its most basic level, it's just adding. So I make a text box. Decide that's going to be a title, and away we go. But let's say I decide I don't want the text box to scroll halfway, all the way across. I can take it right here. And notice, once I grab it correctly, what I mean about the grid lines in the background appear. So all of a sudden, my text box might be this long, and it looks like that. That might be what you want. All right. I decide that I want to add an image. I could do insert image right there, or I could do what's called a placeholder, which might turn into an image. It might turn into a video. I do placeholder. I decide I want it to be on the other side, and there it is. Okay. I decide that's not quite what I want. I move it over. Okay, up to you. That's how you do more advanced layout techniques. Last but certainly not least, that's the look of the page. But what about its content? Um, Content. The only way I can think to describe it is think of your content in two categories: what I would call static and what I personally call dynamic. Okay, so static stuff is the stuff that shows up like in the text box and the images. It's the stuff that's probably not going to change that much. So examples of static info that you don't have to update much, but will be current for a while: your email, your contact info, your office hours, your class schedule, your biography, depending on how you write it, could be good for a very long time, until something like a new degree or a new position. So these are things to put in as like text boxes and stuff. It's clean, it's simple, you don't have to update it that much. But we want our website to still look current, still look fresh, still look like someone's touching it and updating it, even if they're not doing that all that often. So let's think smarter, not harder. In that case, we're going to be embedding and hyperlinking. If it's dynamic content, stuff that might change, stuff that you want them to explore, let's consider embedding and hyperlinking. Okay. To do this goes back to session 1 when I talked about the correct links. A correct link is the type of link and access level. So access level is, can they only view it? Can they edit it, etc.? In most cases, not all, but in vast majority of cases for a Google site, you're going to do the access level of viewer. The type of link, remember your audience. This is your audience. You need to make sure that the people who need to see it, and the people who don't need to see it don't see it. In most cases, you're going to need an anyone with the link. In some cases, you might need to have anyone with the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. Very, very rarely should you set a restrictive link. There are reasons, but very rarely should you do restrictive. Remember, though, that is the default. So we have a lot of great websites that are being made, but people aren't really thinking about it, and so they're embedding restricted links where someone has to email you to get the content. Is that the most efficient use of your Google site? And for the person who's looking at your Google site, there might be reasons. But for the most case, probably not the best link. Unfortunately, it's the default in Google. So please, when you're looking at your published site, leave your Google EBR Google account, get out of that. Look at it as if you're a non-EBR person. I was so nervous in the beginning when I first made Google sites. I would have my husband look. He is not an employee of the district, so if he could see or not see what I needed him, appropriately, it was correct. If what I'm saying does not totally make sense, please refer back to session 1 or to that 11-part series about midway through. Okay? So, embedding versus hyperlinking. I now have this content I want to add. We'll add a text box to show the difference. Both have their place. You just need to decide which one's the right one for you. Hyperlinking provides a link. It will take you somewhere else. So it will open a new tab. If a person clicks on it, they will go to a new tab, a new location. If that is what you want the person to do, you will hyperlink. So for example, on a research page, it would be perfectly appropriate for me to link to the East Baton Rouge Parish Library System, because I would want the students to have access to that. Okay, so perhaps I would type something like this. In today's, website making world, I'm not saying you can't just copy and paste the link, and I'm not saying you can't, do what they used to do, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, where they would have a text of content and then it would say click here or go here. But it's kind of considered best practice and maybe the cleanest look at this point to actually just hyperlink the exact thing in the copy you want them to go to. So in this case, if I want them to open a new tab for the East Baton Rouge Parish Library System, I'm going to actually add the link right here. Now, how do I get this link? I'll go Google it. I happen to know it because I've gone there so much as a librarian. Their website is ebrpl.com. So I'm going to copy. I've highlighted. And notice this one here that says insert link. A link is almost always in any program. It looks like a chain link. Okay, so a chain link. It might not quite look like this. It might look a little more like an actual chain link, but look for the thing that looks like a chain link. You can insert links in pictures. You can do it for shapes. In this case, I'm going to do text. Okay, so I do insert link. Notice if I wanted to, I could actually link to the other web pages. It would take me, throughout my website. But in this case, I'm just going to paste. Notice it is now underlined. That is a hyperlink that will open up in a new tab. If for some reason I realize this is not what I want, or I used maybe the wrong hyperlink, notice I can remove it. I can edit it. Okay, so I remove, the hyperlink is gone. Okay, that is a hyperlink. It will link you somewhere else. It will send you to a new tab. All right. But let's say you want the person to stay on your web page. You don't want them to open a new tab. You want them to stay right there on the web page. Then in that case, the most appropriate dynamic content is to embed. Some examples of things we might embed. We might embed orientation videos for YouTube. So you have a section called student orientation. You might make some videos about how, hybrid learning is going to happen in your room, or how to set up a Gmail account, or how to access Clever. Okay. You could embed the YouTube video. They won't go to YouTube. They will stay right on the website. We could embed a Google slide of student work. Let's say we have media release forms on some kids, and you could make a Google slide. Just change out periodically the student work artifacts. And as you change it on the Google slide, it updates in your Google site automatically if we do it correctly. In session 3, probably one of the most powerful things that can be put onto your Google site is the Google Calendar for each one of your Google Classrooms. Okay, so as you add an assignment to Google Classroom, that is automatically being updated to Google Calendar. And if we put that calendar as an embedded calendar into your site, it works right there as well. Now you've got double coverage for students and for parents. They didn't just have the Google Classroom, actually have triple, or the Google Calendar, but they now also have access through Google Sites. That is 3 ways they could have gotten your assignment due date. Okay? So think, how can we work smarter, not harder? Provide as many avenues as possible. When you embed, there might be 2 ways to do it. So for example, I mentioned student Gmails. A lot of people on our student orientation pages are putting videos for things like how to set up your student Gmail account. You are perfectly welcome to make that yourself. If you want your face explaining it to your students. But if you in that situation, I'm also perfectly fine if you take it from my YouTube channel. So here's my YouTube channel. There it is, setting up your EBR student Gmail account. It has 211 views because a lot of teachers are putting it on their orientation page. So once again, I go up here, I come up here and I copy. I have 2 ways to embed this. I could come down here to YouTube. I can also go to the more generic embed. Okay, one thing I really like about Google Sites is it gives you 2 ways to embed. What I copied was the URL. Okay, some site companies only allow you to use what's called the embed code, and I'm not going to say that it's impossible. It is a little more tricky. You might actually have to play a little bit with coding depending on the situation. But in Google Sites, you can do by URL. All right, and there it appears. If I wanted to, this space is the second half. I could put 2 per spot. And if I didn't like it, remember those grid lines from the second time. I'm just going to take it, and now it's centered. Notice in this case, you stay on the web page because we embedded. Okay. If I had done it as a, up here and added the hyperlink, it would open in a new tab. Please remember that everything I've done has not been seen by the world because I've been working behind the scenes. It will only show up when I do publish and I review. What they're telling me is that the biggest thing I've done is I've added the research page and I've adjusted it. I know I'm not going to keep that, so I'm not going to publish. But there you go. All right. That's pretty much it for session 2. That's everything in a nutshell. Please remember that the attendance is https://tinyurl.com/GOMHS fall 2020 totals with the correct things capitalized. Biggest takeaways from session 1 and session 2. Session 1, making sure you have your site. You do need it in time for open house. And also learning how to make the correct link. We have a lot of people making great web pages, but they're accidentally by default adding those restrictive links. Okay, so make sure you use the right link. Everything else from today, like embedding and stuff and hyperlinking, doesn't work if we don't have the right link. That truly is the foundation of making a good Google site. In today's, what we talked about was setting up the structure and the content. Okay, making sure that our web pages have content. And if they don't have content, we either adjust them or we delete them. And then we talked about static versus dynamic content. So each web page you eventually end up with will need some content. Directly put into it the things that are not going to change often, like your email address, with the text box. For things that, might change, might update, consider, can you do it as a hyperlink or an embed code? Okay, or, embedding a URL. That way your website will be updating, but you will not have to constantly be doing things to it. Okay. If you have any questions, please go to my YouTube channel. There's both this total series and the original 11-part series. If you just kind of want to do it all by yourself right then and there. Session 3 will be this Thursday, September 24th. And in it, we will talk about embedding Microsoft in case you have things in Microsoft. And probably one of the biggest things is embedding those Google Classroom codes for the calendars. Okay, for the calendars. If you have any questions, YouTube channel, or please reach out to me. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.